This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Well, we mentioned right at the top of the program a lot of questions for this man, Pez Whatley, who is with us now. David Crockett and I were there.
Look here, Tony Schiavone, don't give me that mess round here. Let me tell you something right now. And at first, I want to talk to you, Jimmy Valiant. Yeah, the boogie woogie man. Let me tell you, I got the prize. That's right. And I got it with the tool right here. You know, everybody been trying to do it, but the Pistol Man got it done. That's right. This belongs to Jimmy Valiant. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Jimmy Valiant, you ain't nothing but a snuff-dipping, tobacco-chewing, undercover hillbilly anyway. And I spit on the hunky, and I let him know that not only am I the best black wrestler around, I'm the best white one, the best Chinese one, the best Japanese. I whoop Mongolians. Don't say nothing to me, boy. You ain't got no culture, no way. Let me tell you another thing. I ain't through talking yet. I got something else to say. I ain't through yet. Jimmy Valiant, show it to him now. Let him know. Right. Let the whole world. Woo! Show it right now. All right now. All right now.
Jones! Build that on me, baby! Because Davy Crockett, right here, is the best black athlete in the world. Pistol Pez Whatley, my brother.
What? What are you doing? Hey, Pez!
I'll tell you who black boy. I'll let you know who black I am.
What would motivate a man to do something like that anyway?
Right there, I'm gonna tell you what. Tony Schiavone, yes, you understand, boy, that I've been around here whooping on hillbillies every day. I whoop me a hillbilly for breakfast when I feel like it, and I'm starting off with the baddest hillbilly of them all. Jimmy Valiant, you talk about New York City. How can you talk about the Big Apple when you ain't never had a bite? Let me tell you another thing, Jimmy Valiant. When I get through with you gonna understand the whole thing. The score is right now. Pez Whatley 2. I kicked him in the face and spit on him, and I cut his hair. Jimmy Valiant, I'm the baddest black one walking alive. Dig it, sucker!
Okay, when we come back, we'll hear from Jimmy Valiant. Don't you go away.
People, I don't know what to say. I can't explain the feeling I have inside my body. The hurt that I have. I sit down, I try to think how I can explain this thing that just happened, and there's no explanation. The hurt that I have in my body, I can compare it to if a man would come home. I mean, I'm telling you, people, my whole life, maybe my heart is too big. I'll give my shirt off my back to a stranger. Maybe I'll let people take advantage of me. I don't know what happened to my brother. And at this point, I'm still calling him a brother. Pistol Pez Whatley, if you're sick, brother, if you had a seizure, if it's a mental problem, physical problem, come to me, man. I don't know what it is. I have no all I know, brother, is I give and I gave to you, and I give to my people, I give to anybody that I see. No, I'm a loving person. And if there's a problem, brother, with yourself, man, I mean, maybe I can help you. I don't know. I just don't know. Hey, cut the camera, brother.
Place to Be Wrestling Network, welcome back to another edition of the NWA Crock and Roll podcast. Thank you all very much for joining us as we dive further into March 1986. We're actually at the very end. We're covering, we've got a full episode dedicated to the goings on around Jim Crockett Promotions on March the 29th, 1986, as we we're on the road to the Crockett Cup. In this episode, and what an episode we've got lined up for you. We have got a championship match from Mid-Atlantic. We've got some excellent promos, and we dive headfirst into a house show from the Greensboro Coliseum. And again, just to hammer home the point, all of this happened on one day in Jim Crockett Promotions. So hopefully this should show you how on fire JCP was at the time. Obviously can't do it alone. We've got three of the four horsemen tonight. Sean is still away on assignment. He's told me that he's currently in Rio de Janeiro, looking at their bid for the 1987 Crockett Cup. However, Dr. G, you might be able to tell me otherwise, because you seem to have the intel on Sean Kidd's whereabouts. Dr. G, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. So we've located Sean, so that's good. I'm glad he's in Rio and not in Huntsville. That's good thing.
He might still be in Huntsville. Yeah, he clearly doesn't want to tell me where he is.
But no, we miss Sean, but it's I'll tell you, this month, like you said, March of 1986, boy, it's busy, and this just one day in Crockett, it's just amazing how busy and what kind of life these guys led back in the 80s. I mean, it was constant between both companies, WWF and NWA, how they just were constantly on the road, and sometimes doing two shots on one day. It's just amazing stuff. And I think we're in for a good show tonight. I think we're going to be in for a surprising show. I think things, you look at it on paper, you're like, but wow, there was some good things. So I'm looking forward to breaking it down tonight.
Yeah, same here. There was a couple of things on here that I thought was a bit of a sick joke from Sean to play on us for the episode that he's not here. But no, I think I don't think there'll be much negativity on the show tonight. Well, certainly not from the two of us, I hope. And but we'll get the thoughts of our third man in the booth, Scott Shiflett. How are you?
I'm good. I promise I won't be too negative. But there might be. I don't foresee any. Maybe some of your cousins match, but we'll get to that shortly, Callum. Yeah, this is just a crazy time. As I said in our first episode, we've been covering March of '86 for almost 2 months now, and we're finally coming to a close of just an amazing month of wrestling, and it goes out with a bang.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So by the time that this episode has dropped, this will be the fourth episode that we have done on March 1986 alone. It shows you how much. So these shows are about an hour to an hour and a half long. So you're getting at least 4 hours that we have been speaking about 1 month of Jim Crockett Promotions in 1986. to put that into perspective, we spoke on the last PTB Twitch feed for 4 hours about the Royal Rumble, and I thought it was going to kill us all. So this 4 hours going by, like there's like in a flash, talking about some excellent stuff. And Sean has been saying that we might have the same, if not slightly more, for April, given the Crockett Cup. So it just shows you that we've got a lot of excellent stuff, coming up as well. So I can't wait to dive into that, and I can't wait to dive into this episode that we've got coming up. So shall we just go for it?
Yeah, let's jump in.
So everything here, as we said, March 29th, 1986. Your champions roll call on that day. We have got, as you can expect, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Magnum TA is your United States Champion. Tully Blanchard is your National Heavyweight Champion. Arn Anderson's your World Television Champion. Denny Brown is your World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Midnight Express, your World Tag Team Champions. The World Six-Man Tag Team Champions are the Russian team, and your Mid-Atlantic Champion is Sam Houston, and he is actually up first from the March 29th Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling show, defending the title against Black Bart. So we start off this one. I noted my first point on this one is Ron Garvin is on commentary for a match with Black Bart. I'm not that because Black Bart actually beat Garvin for the national title way back, and we covered it way back in episode number 3, if you remember that barnstorming match, Dr. G.
That was actual brutalness. I mean, that's like one of the most unlikable matches that we've watched in the period of time.
It wasn't great. Sean was very...
there's just two guys that shouldn't be put in the ring together, unfortunately.
Sean was very excited, kept bigging up how much he loved Ronnie Garvin, and he lost to Black Bart in one of the worst matches we've covered so far, in a loser leaves town match. We lost him for about 9 months. But Garvin is happily back, and Bart is in this match challenging Sam Houston, as we said, for the Mid-Atlantic Championship. Fast start with Bart trying to overpower Sam Houston, but Sam gets an early 2 count with a crossbody. Sam gets the crowd going to their unusual nuclear levels with a flurry of drop kicks, and my God, is this man over. Sam's on top and gets another 2 count with a move that was almost a sling blade, which was a very strange sight to see in 1986. Sam was working over the arm and seems to be a step ahead of Black Bart in everything he does as we head to commercial break. And wouldn't you know, by the time we come back, Black Bart has taken control of the match. Bart hits a nice, very nice stalling backbreaker, which did look brutal when he actually finally came down to hit it. He seemed to have Sam Houston upside down for an eternity before he hit the backbreaker. Houston makes a comeback, which the crowd is absolutely all over. He goes for the bulldog, but Bart counters, and Houston goes flying into the referee. Houston gets not 1 but 2 visual 3 counts, following a roll up and a bulldog that finally connected. Bart throws Sam out the ring and hits him with an absolutely brutal leg drop to the back of the head from the second rope when Houston's climbing back in the ring. All Bart has to do is Houston flops back out to the floor. All Bart has to do at that point is roll Sam back in the ring, cover him for the 3, and we have a new Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion. Honestly, guys, I was very surprised at this one. I think this is the best Black Bart match we've seen since we started, and we've just spoken about how he had an abomination of a match with Ronnie Garvin back in episode 3, but I thought he looked really good in this one. Sam Houston looked good, and I did actually quite enjoy this match. So I've got 2.5 on this one. This one came out of nowhere for me. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on it?
Wow, you went 2.5 on that? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think I went two. I went 2.25. I did have 2 written down, but after you talked about it a little bit, you kind of convinced me a little bit. I think it was a little better than that. Yeah, I think it was much more surprising. It wasn't like a 1-star match, which I thought it was going to be. But Sam Houston, again, maybe you're not into his gimmick per se, or he wasn't good on the stick or whatever, but he was good in the ring. And I definitely think, even though it's two contrasting styles, they actually worked pretty well together, better than I expected. And maybe that's why the rating's a little higher, just because I was expecting it to be a total dud. So, and I think this is probably going to be one of the last times, I think this Mid-Atlantic title kind of goes away eventually. When you think about it, it's funny because I remember as a kid, I wanted more belts in the WWF because they had so many mid-card guys you wanted to see get a championship. But now I'm actually saying there's too many mid-card belts right now in the NWA, which I know that'll get taken care of soon. But no, I mean, in regards to this match, I was very surprised. So I'll go 2.25 on it.
Yeah, I do think I think you might be right. I think there might be a bit of a bias because of the fact that we came into the match thinking it was going to be an absolute stinker, and it turned out to be reasonably entertaining. Scott, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm gonna be the high man for this. I really enjoyed this match. I went 2 3/4.
Wow.
I don't know. Like, it was just something. Maybe like this match hit me and I was in the right mood. I was enjoying Sam Houston, and like they were saying on commentary, it's like Sam's a young guy here. Wait till he fills out when he gets older in the 20s. Like, they're making him seem like he was going to be a future superstar for the company. I did, like you said, Callum, how he got the visual pin twice. But Bart just looked so vicious when he did that leg drop to Sam Houston when they were out of the ring. But there was also like a time where Bart dropped Houston on the ropes, his throat on the ropes, and like Sam just sold like he was murdered. Like Bart had like cut his throat, and I just loved that. It puts over the viciousness of the move, and it makes Black Bart look like a killer. Luckily, I didn't see that Garvin match, so I didn't have any like negative connotations about Black Bart. I'd seen Sam Houston wrestle against the Horsemen a couple of times, and I'd always enjoyed those matches. But I agree with they should be getting rid of the titles. Like, when we do the title roll call, it's like we haven't seen most of these titles for a while, and like, they're pretty insignificant in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think the Mid-Atlantic Championship is long for this world. I think the problem might be that there's a lot of, because I think the Junior Heavyweight Championship is maybe more of a Florida. It's maybe seen a lot more in Florida, but these are like world championships, and they do get seen from time to time, but they're mainly regional ones. But no, I think you're absolutely right with Sam Houston selling. He does sell things when he needs to. He sells things like death. I'm coming round on him. I wasn't very hot on him at the start of the podcast, early episodes, but I'm coming round, and as I said, the Black Bart's performance in this one took me by surprise. So I think we're probably there or thereabouts. I don't think I can't criticise you guys either way for being too low or too high. So I think we were probably in the right ballpark. So from one surprising thing to another, this is something that I hadn't seen before, and this came out of nowhere for me. So we move to the next the episode of Saturday Night that aired on the 29th. And the show opens up with highlights from the previous episode, of the most recent episode of Worldwide, where Pez Whatley takes exception to Jimmy Valiant calling him the best black athlete in the world. Pez, later in the show, Pez comes out to the podium and Tony greets him, and Pez has a pair of scissors and Jimmy Valiant's ponytail. Pez comes out with an unbelievable, fiery promo and tells Valiant he's not the best black wrestler in the world. He's not only the best black wrestler in the world, he's the best white one, the best Chinese one, the best Japanese one, and he's whipped Mongolians. We then get the full full cut of the promo from Worldwide at the start of the show, which actually shows Whatley putting a beating on Jimmy Valiant and taking the ponytail, which David Crockett sells as if Whatley's using the scissors to cut Jimmy Valiant's throat. Back to Pez at the podium, he's really fired up, and he says he's been around whipping hillbillies every day, and that he's going for the biggest one of them all in Jimmy Valiant. We then move on and hear from Jimmy Valiant himself in what looks to be the immediate aftermath of the attack, because he's looked a bit dishevelled, more dishevelled than usual, and he's wearing the shirt that Pez ripped during the attack. He's very sombre. He's not his usual bombastic self. He's very sombre, and he's saying that he can't explain what happened. He tries to compare the pain that he feels, or what the pain feels like. It's bleeped out in the network, but his lips made it look as if he's talking about somebody fucking his wife. Those are the words I think he said.
Are you serious? I was trying to figure out what that was. That's amazing.
On it, if anyone wants to go back, March 29th, Saturday night, there will be, well, certainly on the network, there's the timestamp for this interview, but you'll be able to find it. I think it's about half an hour in. It bleeps it out. It's certainly on the WWE network. I imagine it's the same on Peacock. If you look at Jimmy Valiant's lips, it looks as if he says somebody is fucking your wife. Look out for it. I didn't get the second half of it because it's bleeped out for quite a while, but that's the pain that Jimmy Valiant feels. So Big Mama obviously getting some action, not from Jimmy Valiant. Valiant thinks he's too kind and people might have taken advantage of him, and questions if Pez has had some form of a mental breakdown, but he says he's still his brother and he still wants to help him. Valiant finishes off by asking the cameraman to cut the camera, and he's playing off that he's completely broken by the whole thing. I thought these were two really, really good promos. Valiant's changing attitude from as opposed to being somebody that's just had a mountain of cocaine before he comes out to do a promo, and he's just like saying anything that comes to his head without making any sense whatsoever. From to change that pace to being the complete very, very serious was an excellent change of pace for him, and Pez Whatley's promo just completely blew me away. I thought it was absolutely excellent. I cannot speak highly enough of these two segments. I really can't. Scott, what are your thoughts on it?
Spoiler alert for the awards. My MVP of these podcasts is Pez. This is amazing. Like, we had seen like Valiant before, just looking like this big goof that's like singing and dancing around, clapping. We wonder why does anyone like them? I think we saw a snapshot into this. This was an amazing angle, and you can see from both sides. Like, Valiant didn't think he said anything wrong, and Pez is like, yeah, you said I was the best black athlete, which, you know, through 2022 eyes, not the best thing to say, not the best thing to say at all. In 1986, it was like okay just by the time, and Valiant didn't think he was saying anything wrong. Pez is completely in the right here. I love Crockett freaking out while Pez is like beating up Valiant. He said, Pez, what are you doing? What are you doing? And like just losing his mind, and it sells extra more of it. Then, like you said, with Valiant just like somber and feels like he lost a brother, and like then tells the cameraman to cut it off because it looks like he's about to cry. Just A+ storytelling from really a lower mid-card act. Like, yes, Valiant is over, but he's like a lower mid-card act. And like Pez was basically like a jobber to the stars, and like we had like Paul Jones' Army, but that's like a lower storyline that I'm 100% invested in right now. And I'm interested to see where it goes. Is Valiant able to save Pez? Does Pez go to join Paul Jones' Army? I want to know. I'm like completely invested, and this came out of nowhere for me. I wasn't expecting this at all, but like we see like Pez beat Valiant down pretty bad, and he even cut some of his hair off, and it's like, oh wow, we're going deep in this already. I loved it.
Yeah, we talked about it in the last episode that this program between Paul Jones and Jimmy Valiant has been going on for 2 years, and with two promos they have. This is the most. I completely agree with you. This is the most invested I've been in Valiant and Paul Jones for the whole time we've been doing this podcast. I was just about to start waxing lyrical again about it, but I best not. I'll move on to Dr. G. What are your thoughts before I start gushed over it again?
Think about it, guys. They took got people that we didn't even like. Pez Watley, who, like you said, was a jobber to the Stars. We never really heard much from him, and took a guy that we just couldn't stand watching every single week and actually made you invested into this angle. And I remember this angle when I was younger, and it was kind of neat because, again, when we were kids, oh my God, the guy that loses every week, now he's mad, and he's, even though he was a heel, he meant something. Now it's like, it was a guy you never thought you could hear do a great promo, just did it and made Jimmy Valiant actually bearable to watch in an interview, that he actually showed some emotion rather than that crazy spastic person that he is, and was very serious. I just think it was very well done. I mean, they made you invested, which is amazing for a lower mid-card feud, that you're actually this invested. But Scott, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think Pez is definitely the MVP of this month, just because this came out of, I mean, I remember from that time, but I'm just saying in terms of our chrono watch, it kind of came out of nowhere and actually made you invested in two guys you would never even think. If you would have told us this 3-4 months ago, you guys would have, if I said to you, oh, you're going to really be into this, you would have been laughing at me. You would have been like, what are you talking about, Dr. What are you taking? What are you drinking? And now look at where we're at.
It's really insane. Like, I'm like so invested now. Like, because we see like different sides of both of these characters. Like, Boogie Woogie Man is like serious, like he's trying to save his brother, and Pez is like, you're gonna treat me with respect, like I'm the best athlete, and it's awesome. I'm just blown away. Like, I'm sorry, I just need to stop, or we'll go on for like 20 minutes about this. But yeah, it's just great. I can't say anything bad about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. G's right. If you had told us when we laid out what we're going to be doing for the watch for this episode, if you had told us that it's going to be Pez Watley and Jimmy Valiant is going to be the one that really wants us to come back for more, I don't think we would have believed you.
Yeah, you would. What are you drinking?
Yeah. You'd had too good of a time over Christmas and New Year holiday. But yeah, unbelievable stuff. So I don't think, I think we might be talking about this at the end of the show. So from two excellent promos to promo with Wahoo McDaniel and Precious. I don't want to give away my thoughts on it, but you're going from one extreme to the other here. Precious is out at the podium by herself and says she's looking for Wahoo, but doesn't think he's got the nerve to show up. And as she's saying, she doesn't think he's got the nerve to show up. She turns around and all you can see is this big shadow. Oh, how she missed the shadow of a 300-pound man with a massive feather headdress coming towards her, I don't know, but Wahoo does indeed show up at the podium. They go back and forth, and she talks down the headdress and claims that Wahoo isn't a real Indian anyway. She says 4 times that Jimmy Garvin could and will beat Wahoo's brains out as the interview is dragging on aimlessly. It feels to me what this interview felt like is if you're watching something on Twitter or on TikTok, pretending I'm down with the kids on the TikTok, and you forget to move on to the next video and it just keeps playing, it just keeps repeating. That's what I felt this interview was like, because Precious just kept saying the same lines 3 or 4 times one after the other, and Wahoo doesn't do anything but stand there. It moves the story forward. I think it puts Garvin and Wahoo back in everyone's consciousness, but it was pretty poor for me. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on
it? I think I agree with you, Calum. Precious didn't really seem that comfortable on the mic, and Wahoo just seemed like he was disinterested, or like Okay, who is this talking? I don't know. He just didn't seem engaged, but I like you said, I guess maybe it just keeps them on the radar, but it just wasn't very good. There's not really much more to say about it than it really kind of sucked. Probably the most negative thing we've seen all month, or one of the most negative things, I should say.
Yeah. It certainly keeps us grounded that not everything is excellent.
The month, but just
No.
if we didn't have it, we wouldn't have missed anything.
No, I think Sean's clearly put it in there on purpose to make sure that we don't get, because we don't want to get too much of a good thing. Just keeps us grounded.
And he does love Wahoo.
He does, for some reason. Scott, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, it was rough. Precious was pretty annoying. Wahoo doesn't really do anything, but I will say Precious did have a good line where she said Wahoo isn't a real Indian, and it just made me laugh at that. But yeah, we went from literally like a A+ promo to like a D- F promo back to back here, and it was, like you said, from one extreme to another. But then we're about to have our spirits lifted back up for our next part, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's to be fair, Dusty might have, or Sean might have taken a leaf out of some excellent bookers of the past, where you have the high points, and then you just have a cool down segment, and then you get back up to the high points, because as Scott said, we are we're back firing on all cylinders. As Ric Flair comes out to the podium, starts off with the usual I fuck loads of ladies over the weekend, before moving on to plug in the Crockett Cup, the NWA as a whole, and the NWA World Championship match with Dusty Rhodes at the Crockett Cup. Again, just goes back to one of the sort of points that I noticed from Flair interviews right at the very start of the podcast, where he would, to big himself up, he bigs up how good the NWA as a whole is, because he's obviously top of the pile. It just gives everyone a boost in that one. Not getting a boost from Ric Flair is Ronnie Garvin, who Flair just dismisses and bets David Crockett $100,000 that he'll make it to the Crockett Cup as champion. And we'll see if that's going to be true a bit later on. Rock and Roll Express come in. They're actually in the ring, and they're facing Art Pritz and Kent Glover, who I imagine, I'll need to go back and check the PWIs from the time, I imagine they were just pipped to a space in the Crockett Cup tournament themselves. The Rock and Rolls work over Pritz or Glover, I'm not sure who, as Flair comes back to the podium, comparing the Rock and Rolls to himself, and in particular the ladies and girls they appeal to. The match itself, pretty standard job stuff. Not sure if the limb work was really necessary, but they were trying to fill up time as Ric Flair was talking on commentary. Ric Flair is briefly talking up the Midnight Express and how they're better than the Rock and Roll Express and are a better showcase as NWA World Tag Team Champions in the when compared to the Rock and Roll Express. Before going back to his favourite subject, obviously, talking about ladies that he has been with, shall we say. Rock and Rolls finally finish off the match with a double drop kick for the win and head straight over to the podium with a face off with Flair. Flair gives Morton what I assume is a training bra as a gift from one of his big ladies for one of Morton's teeny bopper fans. And Flair's ongoing obsession with the Rock and Roll Express's fans' underwear is becoming slightly jarring. Morton fires back at Flair, saying that he talks about what he's done and what he's got. Start again. Morton fires back at Flair, saying he talks about what he's done and what he's got, but it wasn't so long ago that he had all the fan support, and that's what made him what he is today. And that without the fans, neither of them are anything. Flair doesn't care if anyone loves him or hates him because he loves himself. Ricky Morton responds to that comment by taking Flair's sunglasses off and stomping them on the ground, which leads to a big brawl between Flair and Morton. They end up getting to the ring, and Morton gets the better of Flair, finishing him off with a suplex from the apron and a stomp to the head as we cut away for a commercial break. This whole thing was just one big angle, which a wrestling match just happened to break out in the background in the ring. Interested to see that Ricky Morton, who at this point had been just a tag wrestler, getting the better of the world's champion. And we can now make that 3 top-level stories for Ric Flair in full flow now. Ron Garvin, Dusty Rhodes, and now Ricky Morton. All in all, from start to finish, I thought this was really, really good stuff. So, Scott, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I didn't really give a star rating to this match because, like you said, it was just an angle. I will say Flair hyping up the Final Four made me laugh. It said how he had his own Final Four, and he gave Miss Indiana the nod. Just amazing. I'm sorry. It's just amazing. And like how he bet Crockett $100,000 he'll make it to New Orleans as the champ, and Crockett is just quiet. I do love how he says only teeny boppers like R&R, and then you hear like the girls shrill when they're out.
That was perfectly timed.
It really is. And like Flair's basically saying that college girls are easy as he's talking about. He's like, Space Mountain has been open all night long. And then like when they call out like the training brawl thing was just amazing. And one thing I did love about when Morton and Flair were wrestling around, Gibson didn't hop in. I don't know if Gibson was just watching to make sure the Horseman didn't run out, but Gibson let Morton have his moment and basically beat down Flair. He got the better of the world champ, and like Crockett is freaking out. So we have 2 potential Crockett stroke out moments just in the past like 10 minutes, and it's it makes me want to see these Flair and Morton matches. It was Flair just being Flair. It's like, oh, I got the real woman, you just have the teenagers. Which I don't know, but, I know the rumors in Memphis. You never know. But it was, God, this is just pure wrestling at its heart right here. And I was just soaking it all in. I loved it.
Yeah, completely agree with it from there. It's just excellent stuff. If anybody, I mean, if you're coming up and you want to, and you're an up and coming wrestler and you want to see what, don't look at anything from like the last. I mean, there'll be some redeeming qualities from stuff in the last 20 years, but go back further, go to stuff like this, because this is where you'll learn what is like excellent, like, because everybody is in the top of their game, and that you get stuff like this from a tag wrestler, as you say, get a tag wrestler getting the better of the world champion is excellent stuff. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, let me tell you, this is just total great setup here. Like you said, the match, who cares about the match? That was just, Flair was phenomenal on commentary. Just given all his remarks, and he's just always making himself bigger than life. I just love it. Trying to put over the Midnight Express as well. Putting over the feud with Morton, which again, if you listen to Flair, if you've been asking him, one of his favorite opponents was Ricky Morton. He loved Ricky Morton. And you could tell because the chemistry of those two, even when they're going back at each other, even though Ricky's not that great on the stick, he holds his own, to go with Flair. But I really enjoyed this a lot. I mean, I kind of remember the angle, but wow. And I like the fact, Scott, I had this written down, the whole thing with Robert Gibson kind of just staying out of it. Okay, so between you two, I'm going to let you guys battle that out. I'll watch the ring, make sure the Horsemen aren't coming in. You guys do your thing. Just good booking, little things like that us smart fans now will pick up on. They actually did a really good job. So, and yeah, David Crockett marking out, freaking out here two times within the last couple of things that we've talked about here. So it's just amazing. Good stuff. Sean did a great job picking this whole scene out, because this is phenomenal.
No, absolutely is. I think that is the word. That is the word for it. It is phenomenal stuff from everybody involved. So yeah, building up nicely, and it would. If I am not mistaken, there will be a Ric Flair and Ricky Morton match, quite a famous Flair and Morton match that we might get to see further down the line. But the way that all these months are going, it'll probably be about this time next year that we'll get to see it once we fit everything in. So that's everything from the TV side of things. But as we said, we've got an absolutely stacked house show from the Greensboro Coliseum again from March 29th. All of this again to hit you over the head with it is happening on the same day. So there was a 7-match card. We've got 4 of them that we're going to cover. And I'm sorry to disappoint everybody when you hear the 3 that we will not be watching, but we won't be watching. Nelson Royal against current NWA superstar George South. Don Cornado against Thunderfoot, and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin against the Italian Stallion. So I'm sorry, guys. As we can't fit them all in, and we had to leave some bangers off by the sounds of things.
I'm really upset with missing a Nelson Royal match. How dare you, Callum? I blame you for this, not Sean. This is on you, buddy.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you and the people at home or in their cars, wherever you listen to the pod. From the bottom of my heart, I apologise that we'll be having no Nelson Royal on the episode tonight. What we do have though is some again just top class Jim Crockett Promotions matches here. We start off. So those are the first 3 matches. The 4th match of the night, right in the middle, is the Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express. And Jim Cornette in this one is going to be locked in a shark cage above the ring. Cornette is getting the crowd fired up as only Jim Cornette can. I can't make out what he's saying, but it is the usual introduction for the Midnight Express. And the crowd goes nuclear, so that can only mean one thing, and it is the entrance of the Rock and Roll Express. There's a hard cut to Jim Cornette being put in the cage, and a wild brawl erupts between the two teams. The crowd I've got molten hot here, but I don't even think that is descriptive enough as to how wild this crowd is as Jim Cornette is getting raised above the ring. You get another hard cut as the Midnight Express are on top with Bobby Eaton working over Ricky, and Eaton gets a couple of near falls after a big suplex and a backbreaker. There's an excellent spot where Bobby Eaton does the double leg slingshot, and Ricky counters it into a sunset flip onto Condrey, who's bent over in front of him for a near fall. It's one of these spots that could be a bit convoluted to the point it looks a bit messy, but this one was so smooth. It worked exactly as intended. It was brilliant. Condrey kicks out and then starts choking Ricky on the top rope as the referee pulls Condrey off and throws him all the way across the ring. And Dennis rightfully gets up and chases him out the ring for that. The Midnights missed the rocket launcher, and we get another hard cut to all 4 in the ring after it's broken down, before Robert rolls Condrey up with a sunset flip for the win. All in all, this video was about a 7-minute long video. We only get 3-4 minutes of action because of all the cuts to it, and I wish we did see more because it looked as if it was the bits that you saw were excellent, and you can just imagine that the rest of it was really, really good too. I've gone 2.5 for the bits that we did see, because as I say, it was top of the line stuff. I could imagine it's easily high 3s, maybe even touching the 4s if we got the full thing. But excellent stuff for these two, as you can imagine. So I'll go to Dr. G first of all. What are your thoughts on this one?
I just love watching these two teams work. I know that some of it was cut up or whatever. I mean, the crowd was hot, absolutely hot. Calum, what did you go on? And I'm sorry, because I must be having some internet issues tonight, because it kind of went out on it. How many stars did you say? I gave it
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I tell you, we're all like really in sync, because that's exactly what I have. I have 2.5 stars for this. Again, I think because you understand when the footage we're getting is a little bit cut up. So I just think sometimes you just get like to a point where you just got to judge for what you're seeing. It's one of those matches you actually wish was longer, just because just watching those two teams, all four guys are just in sync with each other. And then Jim Cornette getting raised in the cage, just phenomenal stuff. So 2.5 stars, might have gone 3 stars if, maybe it was a little longer. But some good gems that Sean's finding. And these house show crowds are, Greensboro, Charlotte, those areas, just phenomenal. The pops that they're getting, I think these guys today would love to get. And when people say, even Ric Flair says to this day that Rock and Roll Express has some of the biggest pops he's ever heard in his lifetime. And he's been through a lot of periods of wrestling, for all the way from the 70s through the Attitude Era till now. So just good stuff. I just love watching those two teams work. Even though I'm not a big Rock and Roll Express fan, I just have respect for them, and I have a lot of respect for the Midnight Express.
Yeah, you couldn't. I don't know if anyone could get close to the reaction that these guys get on a consistent basis. You get the occasional one where you hear the glass shatter and Austin comes out after a while, or if The Rock was to come out and you had CM Punk's return on Rampage, but they're like one-off pops. But yeah, the Rock and Roll Express are just getting them all the time.
I know they say there's a Road Warrior pop too, and I know we haven't. We've seen some Road Warriors, and I believe it. They did. I've seen some of their pops before, but I think Rock and Roll, like you said, just total consistent. And the only thing I would say in my lifetime that I heard that's like that is the Attitude, or like especially like a Stone Cold or even Rock, but that's and even in Hogan, if you're in that category of pops, you're over. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And no doubt in what we've seen so far as the Rock and Roll Express are absolutely in that category as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're in line. Are we going to go 3 for 3? We've got Scott. What are your thoughts on it?
I went 2.5. Yes, it was clipped very, very much so, sadly. But what I saw was just, they wanted to probably kill Cornette. It's probably a good thing he was in that cage. I love the all-out brawl, and I love that Rock and Roll's their tag moves are so simplistic, but they're so amazing. Like at the very end with the sunset flip, Robert is holding the guy up, and Ricky drop kicks him, and that just rolls over, and then he attacks the other Midnight, and that's the 1, 2, 3, and it's just so great. It's like so simple. It's like the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what they do, and there's no like all these like dodge Lee outside with these guys. It's just like we're gonna tell the story in the ring, and it's gonna be great. And that's what these four did. When you think of Rock and Roll Express, you think of Midnight Express. When you think of Midnight Express, you think of Rock and Roll, and it's why I've read about this. I've seen some of it as well. When Smoky Mountain, when Cornette actually went with Rock and Roll, it was like so big at the time in like 93 or 94. I think he actually ended up turning on them, but it's still just a shocker that they would team up after, the wars that these teams went through in the mid 80s.
Agreed. The thing is think about the tag teams that the NWA / Crockett Promotions had. You had the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, Arn and Tully, the Road Warriors. Just start there. Think about that tag team. When Ole and Arn were, before Tully and Arn, they just had phenomenal teams, and they definitely were known for better tag team wrestling. I think, as a company than all the other companies. And just the way that these two teams, I mean, they work together constantly. So they knew each other. And think about it. That's why Rock and Roll Express picked Jim Cornette to induct them into the Hall of Fame, because they helped each other make a lot of money back in those days.
Yeah, you could easily make an argument that if there's without Jim Cornette, the Rock and Roll Express don't get to anywhere where they got to. I mean, they were big beforehand because we watched them with the Russians, but the Midnight Express stuff already
took them to another level.
Oh, absolutely,
no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of the Russians, we've got the highly anticipated rematch. I know Scott has been looking forward to this one for weeks. The highly anticipated rematch between Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff for the United States Championship. We start off with the stare down and Magnum getting the upper hand with a punch to the face before, much to my dismay, I find out that this match is clipped again. Takes a very hard cut to what seems to be a pinning predicament after a backdrop. From what I can tell, Magnum has had Nikita in a headlock and Nikita has countered it with a backdrop, and Magnum is getting his shoulders up a couple of times. Not content with Magnum continuing to kick out, the referee pushes Magnum back onto the offense, out of the pinning predicament, back onto the offense with a headlock, and that makes us 2 for 2 on needless referee interferences. Never change, Jim Crockett Promotions, never change. Rightly so, Uncle Ivan is on the outside and he is irate. They move on from the headlock into a spot where Nikita brushes off 2 shoulder blocks from Magnum before Magnum eventually gets the upper hand with a running forearm to the face, much to the crowd's pleasure. We get another hard cut to Magnum on the top rope, waiting to hit the double axe handle, which he does hit for a 2 count. Magnum takes a big spill to the outside after Nikita dodges a running cross body, and that allows Ivan on the outside to get some licks in before he distracts the referee, which allows Nikita to ram Magnum's head right into the ring post. We get another cut, and this time Nikita is firmly in control as Magnum's selling of the back is excellent, and Nikita is putting a beating on him. We get another hard cut to Magnum whipping Nikita into the ropes to hit the belly to belly, which leads to Ivan coming into the ring, breaking up the pin, and the DQ victory for Magnum TA. After the match, you get a 2-on-1 beatdown, and the Russians look to hit Magnum with the chain before some baby faces, 2 of whom I think are Don Canolo and probably the Italian Stallion, run in to run the Russians off. Again, very difficult to rate, just because of all the cuts. It doesn't allow really any. It doesn't allow for any flow of the match to be seen. I didn't enjoy it as much as the last 2 that we've watched from the house show circuit. Again, might have been higher if we saw the full match, or just slightly more of it in a more flowing way. But I've gone 1.75 on this one. It kept my attention, just not helped by all the cuts. And I will go to Scott first because I know he is champing at the bit to get something off his chest for this one, no doubt.
Okay, I'm a little upset that I'm going to be the high man on this, Callum, more than likely.
Match of the year.
No, I wouldn't go that far. 2.25 stars, because I really enjoyed this match. I enjoyed this more. Maybe it's because I had lower expectations from the calamities I had to watch last month. But first off, Tommy Young can go to hell. It's just he has to make himself the center of attention. I did like the shoulder blocks and both men standing. It shows how strong both of these guys are. And then like Nikita tells him to like try it again, and Magnum then hits him with a forearm, which I thought was very nice. The cuts are pretty bad, but hey, get what we can here. Magnum's misdive out to the floor was nice. Then we have Uncle Ivan doing his work on the outside. And I like Nikita working the back as well. And you didn't miss. Like, I love that Magnum could hit the belly to belly out of nowhere, because that's what this really seemed like. Then Ivan ran in. You didn't mention that a fan ran in at the end of this match to help Magnum, and they had to drag him off before the baby faces ran in. Like, that's how pissed off people were that the Koloffs won. That Magnum won by DQ and the Koloffs were beating down Magnum. A fan was running in. You know, it's the 80s. I'm assuming he had a knife on him, okay? To maybe stab one of these guys. It's crazy. And, like, you see, like, it sort of, like, freaks everyone out when the fan runs in, because you see, like, Tommy Young just standing around, and then you see, like, the people, like, the two baby faces run out. So maybe that wasn't part of it. Maybe it was like, go protect the wrestlers just in case we have a full riot type situation here. And then we see, like, the two policemen, like, carrying the person who ran in off, probably to get his ass beat. That's how hot this thing was. So that's why I was like, the crowd was into it. So I can't, be an asshole like Meltzer and just be like, oh yeah, it was terrible. But the crowd loved it, but I didn't. 0.35 stars or whatnot. So I did give it a little bit for that. That's why I went 2.25.
Well, that is the first time that we're not in sync on these last couple of episodes, Scott, and you pull a surprise out the bag there. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on this one?
I went 2 stars on it. I agreed. I think if listen, we got what we get. At least we got the house show. But yeah, I think the cutting of it kind of hurt a little bit. The ending with the DQ, kind of predictable for a house show, but that's okay. I'm not going to totally get upset by that. I did notice the fan coming in, and if you notice in those days, they didn't want the faces to beat up a fan, so they wanted to make sure that they got him out of there before the faces came in, and that's a known thing, because that's all you need is in those days, since kayfabe was still real, which is what made that fan go into the ring, which is crazy to even think. Now you can't get that anymore. Not that maybe you totally want that these days, but you know what I'm saying. It's just that's the heat that the Russians had, and it's funny because I've seen this plenty of times, even at house shows that I was to as a kid. They definitely didn't want the faces to have to get onto the fan, so they made sure that either the heels or security got rid of the fan before any of the faces came out. But no, it was nothing offensive. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more. But Nikita is Nikita. He's limited in the ring. Magnum is a good wrestler. I wouldn't say in the ring he's a great wrestler. He's a good wrestler. So you're not going to get a 5-star match, although they did have some good matches in that best of 7. But nothing to really get totally crazy about. It was a pretty good match overall. Just would have liked to have seen more, I guess.
Yeah, another match that's been sort of hampered by the cropping of it. Full disclosure, I did completely miss the guy running in the ring. I was going back and forward between the notes and the video on the same screen, and I completely missed it. So apologies for that one, but I'm glad that you guys are on the ball for that one.
You know me. Every time a fan runs in, I kind of want to see someone get clocked. So let's go.
Well, who doesn't like to see that? I need to go back and watch it just to see that. I'll skip right to the very end.
Yeah. So Calum, when that happened, I was watching it and I called my wife over and I was like, "Come check this out." And she's like annoyed with me, and I'm like, "See, look how crazy these fans were in the 80s." And she's like, "Oh wow, that is crazy. I'm gonna go back to doing literally anything else but watch you talk about 80s wrestling as you're taking notes."
It's like it's fake, right? Watch this. This guy doesn't think it's fake. This guy is willing to be beaten up just to stab somebody from North Carolina who's pretending to be Russian.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and it was great.
Oh, excellent! Yeah, it just goes to show that you just get like excellent stuff. It's easy to get carried away, as your man did. He spent a night in the cells somewhere in Greensboro, just for the opportunity to take out one of the Russians. Excellent stuff. But we go from a match. Finally, we get a match that I certainly didn't notice any hard cuts in. It is Dusty Rhodes and Wahoo McDaniel versus Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard in a no disqualification Texas bull rope and Indian strap match. So the obviously Dusty comes to the ring with the bull rope, and Wahoo comes with the Indian strap, as you can imagine. The match starts with Tully avoiding being attached to Dusty, and trying to forcibly attach himself to the strap. But Wahoo and Dusty eventually hold him down and force him to be tied to the bull rope. So this is, as you can imagine, just like any other dog collar strap match, bull rope match type thing. Dusty's attached to Tully by the bull rope, and Wahoo and Arn are attached by either end of the strap. I'm not the biggest fan of, I'll just admit it straight up, I'm not the biggest fan of these types of matches. And this one starts off with the usual choking with the binding device, although Wahoo does pull Arn over to ram. The way the spot is Dusty is choking Tully in the corner with the cowbell, and Wahoo pulls Arn over to ram Arn's head into said cowbell, which was a good spot, using all the surroundings as best you can there, Mr. McDaniel. Obviously, being a fan cam, I've got a note here, being a fan cam, you're not getting everything. You're not getting the professional multicam setup. So the main focus for the guy that we're grateful for taking the footage of is on Dusty and Tully on the outside. So Arn and Wahoo could be having a 5-star classic for all we know in the ring. And we're getting most of the stuff on Dusty and Tully on the outside. And at this point, given the nature of the match type, it's almost as if there's two singles matches going on in the same ring. The Horsemen are in control, and until Tully goes up top, which allows Dusty and Wahoo to get him to nail him with the cowbell and strap on the way down. Dusty then goes off on both guys with the cowbell until Tully. Dusty goes off on both men with the cowbell and then nails Tully with a succession of right hands, and a pretty funny spot where Tully gets up, a bit disorientated, and the rope happens to be between his legs, so Dusty gives it one pull, and Tully ends up flipping over himself. Arse over tit, as they would say around these bits. A funny moment comes when Wahoo tries to hit Tully with a rolled up bit of strap, but he completely whiffs because Tully is too far away and the other end is attached to Arn, who's on the other side of the ring. So Wahoo, just potentially forgetting his surroundings there, that he's not actually tied to Tully. The match does eventually end when Arn goes to throw Wahoo into Dusty on the apron, but Dusty turns around, catches him in the head with the cowbell for the 3 count. All hell breaks loose in the aftermath. I think from what I could see, again, not professional stuff here, but what I could see was JJ releasing Tully from the rope and tied it to the ring rope, which left Wahoo vulnerable for the 2-on-1 until Baby Doll releases Dusty from the bottom rope. The big man makes the save. As I say, I think we got this one in the entirety. I didn't notice any cuts in the footage, which does help. As I said at the start, I can really come and go in these type of matches. I did like the use of Wahoo in this one, and the common theme I'm starting to find now is that I prefer Wahoo matches when it is what is like this one is essentially a fight as opposed to a straight up wrestling match. I've gone for 2 on it because it wasn't bad, and given some of the guys that are in the ring, you would be hard pushed to have, even with Wahoo in, you'd be hard pushed to have a bad match with Arn, Tully and Dusty in the ring. But yeah, not my favourite. I think I think I'm maybe possibly being biased because I'm not a huge fan of the match type. But I'll go to you first, Dr. G. What were your thoughts on it?
I agree. These matches, this is the type of match I would have loved to have some commentating on. I think might have helped it a little bit.
Yeah,
I
think so.
Stars as well. I mean, it wasn't offensive, but it wasn't as good as it could be. But I like Wahoo better in a fight than a wrestling match. You're absolutely right. He's much better. But these things could get very sloppy. Remember, these guys are connected to each other. One's going one way, another's going another way. It's you saw a lot of Dusty dragging Tully around. It was just and again, because the footage is not so great, we get what we get. But I do think if it was a WWE production with announcing and, the bright lights and the, good camera shots, might have been a better match. Believe it or not. I usually wouldn't say that, but I just think with all these things, I do miss the commentary a little bit because it does help. But I guess when you go to a live event, you don't get commentary. So that's the way I try to look at it when you go see a show live. But it was okay. Nothing. I mean, I would never go below 2 stars on it. It was just an average match.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. I completely agree there. Commentary would have it might have helped us one along. I can't argue with that. Even if because I think did we not watch I think we watched the house show one time. Was it a Flair Nikita match and it only had Tony on commentary? I think even just one guy trying to explain it away would have made a world of difference. And you do make a good point as well. It must be really difficult for these guys to be to do what they normally do, whilst also having to bear in mind that they are attached by the wrist to the other guy. They don't have necessarily the same freedom that they do. So no, completely on board with what you said there, Dr. G. Scott, what your thoughts on this one?
I just enjoyed this as like a straight up crazy brawl. The Horsemen did great, like selling with like not wanting to, they weren't really on offense that a lot, and if they were cheating. I will say they were selling like the strap shots, like they had been shot, which was very fun, which I enjoyed. There was a point where Wahoo was the only one on his feet and everyone else was down. And I have here, if he would have left his feet, he'd be like a turtle and they wouldn't be able to get him back up. So that's why he was the only one still standing. That was just for you, Cal.
Thank you.
But, then Arn gets hit with the cowbell and, that was it. I went 2.5 on that. It kept my attention. I love that it was not clipped. This was, like you said, the only match that we didn't get that wasn't clipped. And the crowd was hot for it. Then after the match, JJ and Baby Doll got into it. It's just Wahoo is triple teamed. And Dusty starts swinging the cowbell and everyone gets the hell out of Dodge. I really enjoyed that last part.
Fair enough. I can't. I'm not going to argue with the 2.5 there, because the points that you've made, I can see why you've given it that score. Again, it wasn't. I think we've all in agreement that it certainly wasn't a bad match by any stretch, but there was a couple of things missing for me and Dr. G. But no, I think we're all in the same ballpark there again, which is again very disconcerting for these last two episodes. We've all been there or thereabouts. We're finally, we're not finally, we're all getting in sync now, and I think that will probably continue for this next one. The last couple of episodes we've referenced that there's been mentions that Ric Flair might not make it to the Crockett Cup as champion. Probably referencing this match, it is Ric Flair versus Ronnie Garvin in a cage for the World's Heavyweight Championship. So we've seen Flair and Garvin a few times recently, and every single one of them has been a banger. So very much looking forward to this one. The match starts off with a bit of feeling out, and the two guys trading punches, chops, and open hand slaps, and just to sort of move along the feeling out process. A fan can be heard, a fan next to the person who's taking the recording can be heard asking Flair to either break Garvin's leg or Garvin's neck, as the guys are getting into it in the corner, which I do think is a bit extreme, but it does show that there is Flair fans in attendance. Flair gets the upper hand with a low blow as both men are tied up in the corner, and then he takes control by ramming Garvin's head into the cage. Does it a couple of times and then gets a 2 count from a knee drop. At one point, Flair starts grating Garvin's face off the cage, and the guy beside the camera is absolutely loving it. About 10 minutes into the match, Flair is in complete control using the cage as a tag team partner, and Garvin is now sporting the good old crimson mask. Flair gets Garvin in the corner and unloads some punches and chops, but Ronnie starts to Garvin up and starts to make the first comeback of the match, which the crowd is all over. They are all in for Garvin's comeback. Flair tries to throw Garvin at the cage again, but Ronnie counters and Flair goes face first into the cage wall. Garvin then takes control and gives Flair the grating treatment against the cage. Flair gets back into it with a kick, but Garvin tries to get back into it with a kick, but Garvin blocks and punts Flair right in his nature boys. Flair immediately tried to escape the cage, but Garvin grabs him by the tights, and we get a cracking sight of Flair's backside front and centre. Garvin gets a 2 count off the top rope with a double axe handle, and then a 2.5 count off a running crossbody, and the crowd are getting more and more into it as they can sense that Garvin might be on the sense of victory. Flair tries to get control back by escaping a 10 plus punch corner spot with a reverse atomic drop, but Garvin quickly fires back with a big right hand and the cover before Flair gets his foot on the rope at 2.
Which, Callum, I have a problem with this. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
If it's a cage match, there should be no rope breaks. And this goes into it's just one thing that it's a pet peeve of mine. And this shows it right here. And we'll get to it with the final. What do you guys think of that? Should there be rope breaks in a cage match?
I can see the logic in it, because you would think it would be no disqualification.
Yeah, and I had the same issue with the Von Erich and Flair match as well, because they kept doing rope breaks when that, and I don't know, it's just something I need to get up past my mental block with. Sorry.
I wonder if they always say that WWF and the NWA rules are different, because I might be wrong, but did the tag team cage matches? I've only seen the final Conflict one once, and I've only seen the Starrcade 85 one with the Rock and Roll and the Russians once or twice. But do they not have they not tag in and out as well? So do you think they're maybe saying that this is a normal match, it just so happens to be surrounded by a cage?
I think they might do that, just where they this is a normal match, but to keep everyone in or make sure no one comes in, we have a cage right here. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah,
it must be something like that. But answers on a postcard. If there's anyone out there that knows the real reason why they do it, or if there's an NWA rulebook, please let us know. Tweet at NWA Crock and Roll. That's
I don't even know if there's set rules for it. It's like the NWA always did the pinning in the match. The WWF always did whoever could climb out and hit the floor first, which kind of made no sense if you think about it. The whole purpose of having the cage just to keep the guys in there to kind of end the feud, but that was a New York rule. NWA, when they had the referee in there, they always followed the regular rules of a wrestling match, but you were able to use the cage, which kind of made no sense to me, because to me, if it's no DQ and you're able to use the cage and parts of the cage, you should be able to, then you shouldn't have to worry about counts and all that other stuff. So I agree with you, Scott, on that.
Thank you.
Very strange, possibly liberal use of the rule book, but it is your good friend Tommy Young, Scott, so he just makes it up as he goes along, potentially. Speaking of using the cage, Flair does eventually regain control by ramming Garvin head first into the cage, and Flair locks in the figure 4 for the first time in the match, and he's in it. Has it locked in for a good while before Garvin reverses. Flair breaks it up, obviously because he put in the lock. Garvin tries to get up and walk away, but he can only make a couple of steps before he just crumbles into a heap, selling the leg being hurt after the submission. And the guy next to the camera was probably loving the prospect that Garvin's leg might indeed be broken. Flair tries to lock in the figure 4 again, but Garvin rolls him up with the schoolboy for another 2 count. Garvin's selling of the leg, I've got a note here, is absolutely excellent. He rolls Flair up, but can only get the 2 because the pressure on his leg gives out. So Flair doesn't kick out, but Garvin falls off the cover because his leg can't stand up properly on the leg after the figure 4, which I think is superb. As the 25-minute time elapsed announcement goes out, Flair elbows Garvin in the gut and then just sprints across the ring to try and escape. He just wants to get out of there and away from Garvin. He gets one leg over and again full ass on show, but Garvin manages to pull him back in and throws him off the top rope. Garvin nails Flair again with another big right hand, but Flair again is too close to the ropes and gets his foot on the rope, the bottom rope, for another 2. Flair then gets the win out of nowhere with a running crossbody with the feet on the ropes for the 3 count. But my first note after that is just wow. I thought this was an excellent match. Both men got on, had long periods of being in control. Shows you Garvin could have had the match won if Flair hadn't been too close to the ropes, or if his leg hadn't given out on that roll up. Garvin's selling the leg was just masterful. I've got here, and another banger between the 2. So I'm going 4 on this one. But I could probably convinced to be going in. I could be convinced to go even higher, I think. So Scott, we'll start off with you. What are your thoughts, other than obviously the liberal use of the rules?
I went 3 3/4 for this. I really enjoyed this. It felt like they were just maybe redoing some spots though, because I saw Flair's ass too many times in this match. So I don't know if they were like running ahead and forgot what they were doing or whatnot. I'm not a fan of the cheating to win in a cage match, and that's what knocks it for me. But these guys, they have amazing chemistry. And going into this podcast, I never would have thought that I would be rating these Garvin Flair matches so well. But these guys just beat the hell out of each other. They were just both bloody, and it was. I just loved every second of it. I wish we had like we were talking earlier when Tony Schiavone commentated that match with Nikita Koloff. I wish we would have had that and actually some a better camera than some guy sitting like close to the nosebleeds. But I'll take what we can get with that. But this was just amazing. And I think Flair has talked about how they just beat the hell out of each other, and he would have to put Neosporin on his chest because it was so raw after battling Ronnie Garvin.
I can imagine that, because like right from the very start, within the first 10 or 15 seconds, they're just wailing on each other. So yeah, I can see why you've knocked it down for the sort of strange cage match rules. But I agree with you on everything you say. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm right in sync with Scott. I went 3 3/4 stars. I thought, again, the chemistry amongst these two. I agree with you. The whole cage match thing. I hate that kind of stuff. But overall, the match was just Scott. I just can't believe that we're even saying this. The chemistry between these two, and the way Garvin sells the leg. And that's something that's not done very well today. He sold it through the whole rest of the match, not just for that period of time. So, I think I think it was a fair rating. Could have went higher. Could talk me into it, splitting hairs. But I wouldn't say it's a 5-star match, but it's definitely, close to a 4-star match.
No, I can fully get on board with what you're saying. We're all in the we are all in the same ballpark, so it's not as if you guys have gone like 3 3/4, 4 stars, and I've gone 1.75. I mean, imagine a match like that comes up and we're completely out of the nowhere close to each other. But I can't imagine a match like that would ever come up. But no, I'm totally agree with what you guys have said there. But another absolute banger between these two. As you say, the chemistry they've got. It's one of these. I think they're now in I think they're settling the territory where they would have to actively try to have a bad match. I think they just naturally go in and will just have a good match with each other. So long may it continue. If we get more Flair Garvin, then all the better. But that finishes up the Greensboro House show and the viewing from the domestic viewing.
Also, could you guys imagine spending $25 maybe for front row tickets to have that show? That's amazing. Like, God, like I would just be happy having one or two of those matches. But we talked about 4 or 5 matches that were just amazing from top to bottom, and the Nelson Royal match. God,
$25 for Nelson Royal straight away is an absolute bargain.
Thank you, Callum.
Yeah, it's just just insane quality. You definitely get more than enough bang for your buck watching that show. And just like these guys got it. Like again, you go to modern times and obviously we're not local, but the WWE would come over here twice a year. I imagine they don't go to very many places more than twice or 3 times a year at most. These, like Crockett, were going to the Greensboro Coliseum regularly, like every 4 weeks or so. I want to say, imagine that. Imagine just getting to see that all the time. It's just excellent. So unfortunately that's the last of the Greensboro Coliseum we'll see in March, and the last domestic based match we'll also see. We've got one more match to cover. It is the Crockett Cup showcase match for this episode, and it is between Giant Baba and Tiger Mask versus Abdullah the Butcher and George Scalland. Now, according to our good friends at Cage Match, this match takes place on April the 2nd, 1988, on the Ike Kajiwara Memorial Show from the Ryogoku Kokugikan, otherwise known as Sumo Hall. Ike Kajiwara was the author, a manga writer and film producer, and was the man who wrote the Tiger Mask manga, which inspired the character, hence why I believe we're having a wrestling show as a memorial. This is the second Tiger Mask iteration, and it is played by Mitsuhara Misawa. So we have, for any Japanese wrestling fans out there, first and probably only one of 2 Misawa sightings you'll see on NWA Crock and Roll. George Scalland is indeed the son of Arnold Scalland of WWF fame and one of Vince Sr.'s right-hand men. So another heavily clipped match we've got here. Abdullah comes to the ring with a belt that is literally a gold plate with brass knuckles on it, and I could not for the life of me find out what that belt represented. So answers on a postcard, please.
And also, if you have any birthdays or anniversaries, I will totally do the Tony Schiavone gimmick with that.
Oh, you totally should. Like, at NWA Crock and Roll, for any birthday and anniversary announcements you want Scott to make on upcoming NWA Crock and Roll podcasts, So this match is, as I said, clipped, as first can be seen after the initial feeling out process. The match cuts out some long arm work long arm work by Tiger Mask on Scarland, straight to Giant Baba being tagged in, and the crowd acknowledges this with a cheer. Not what we're used to on some of the Crockett shows, but a nice pop from Japanese crowd, like relative for Japanese crowds. Obviously, slightly more respectful and subdued a lot of the time. The crowd gets excited for Baba dropping down and getting Scarland into an armbar for some light athleticism. Tiger Mask gets tagged back in and hits Scarland with a lovely drop kick, which the crowd loves, before Abdullah is tagged in for a very big reaction. Tiger Mask eats shit on a attempted shoulder tackle, and the crowd lets out a big ooh. The term "running into a brick wall" does not do justice. He hits Abdullah and goes flying. The crowd is absolutely amazed by everything that Abdullah the Butcher does, and the match cuts again to Abdullah giving Tiger Mask a throat thrust in the corner and tagging out. It then cuts immediately to Abdullah tagging back in, so the person that's making this video obviously doesn't want to see a lot of George Scotland. And Tiger Mask has been absolutely pummeled by the Butcher. Abdullah has Tiger Mask up in a chokehold and throws him down, but he's too close to the ropes and tags in Giant Baba, which gets the crowd excited, as it'll be the first showdown between Baba and Abdullah in this match, or certainly that we've seen. Abdullah unloads on Baba, but Baba quickly takes control with some chops. The match cuts again to Tiger Mask and Giant Baba double teaming Abdullah. But Abdullah quickly takes control again with some punches in the corner and a big headbutt. So as you can, if you're following along, there's not a lot of finesse coming from anyone other than Tiger Mask. Tiger Mask tries to mount a comeback and eat shit again on a missed springboard crossbody, which Abdullah gets a 2 count off of. You then get another cut, and it looks as if Abdullah has somehow been cut at some point, as he is now bleeding, in typical Abdullah fashion. Baba then comes in as he's getting up from the pin and just starts kicking Abdullah the Butcher in the head. Scotland gets tagged back in, hits a big clothesline, but only for a 1 count. Baba gets back in the match, and the crowd is loving him doing a side Russian leg sweep, so that must be the height of athleticism for the big man. It's one of the loudest pops in the whole match from doing a move that the Sandman could do competently. The finish comes when Baba hits Scotland with a big boot, and then tags in Tiger Mask to hit a flying crossbody off of the top rope for the 3 count. There's a standoff at the end, which turns into a brawl between Abdullah and Giant Baba, which spills to the outside, and we get one last cut to Abdullah standing tall, surrounded by absolute carnage at ringside. So it looks as if we've had some very exciting stuff cut out, because the ringside was pristine before the cut, and then after it there's a table upside down. There's no fans anywhere. There's chairs everywhere. So it looks as if things got a bit wild. I've got this as an interesting watch, but nothing spectacular. Tiger Mask was certainly the best thing going. I don't think it was, unlike the other ones, I don't think it was really hindered by having stuff cut out. I think the problem was you had 4 guys in there whose styles just didn't seem to be compatible with anybody else in the match. I've gone 1.5 because there was some things that were decent enough, but it wasn't offensive in any way. I'll go to you first, Dr. G.
He had to step away, Callum, so I'll hop in. Yeah, so I knew as soon as I saw it was Abdullah, Abby, and George Scotland versus Baba and Tiger Mask. I knew everyone and their brother knew that Scotland was going to take the pin, and we were just waiting to kill time until that happens. I will say, when Baba came in the ring, it felt like it was like a special thing. It just seemed so crazy because he's just like a giant of a man, like because Abby's pretty tall as well, but like he even stands over Abby. I will say when Abby and Baba were hitting each other, that's where I enjoyed most of the match, because Scotland kind of reminded me if I was a wrestler and was like some uncoordinated as shit, and that's how I felt Scotland was. Tiger Mask was pretty cool. I love the little history that you gave. I knew some of that, but that was also very nice. I everything, it just seemed like they were like trying to make Tiger Mask look like a joke, because like he missed like a couple of dives here and there, and this is even clipped. But I will say I like the ending with the dive on the top rope from Tiger Mask to Scotland. I went just 1.75 stars on this. It wasn't anything, but I just want to see Giant Baba go up against like these other wrestlers in 1986, because like you said, this is 1988, so maybe if he's a little bit more in better shape.
Yeah, I remember hearing, because I think the Jenny and the Gems, there was a Jenny and the Gems episode which they covered, excuse me, the 86 Crockett Cup, excuse me, and they have some, they pointed out that Giant Baba is a very large man. So I didn't mention it is Baba and Tiger Mask that are going to be the team that is in. Oh, we did mention it at the start of the first episode. Excuse me. It is Baba and Tiger Mask that are going to be in the Crockett Cup. Unfortunately, Abdullah and Scotland aren't going to be. So it would be interesting, to see what 2 years. 2 years of, less aging, 2 years less wear and tear on the body from wrestling will do to Baba, and Tiger Mask was the highlight of the show. So it'd be good to see what they pull off in the tournament. So we have unfortunately lost Dr. G at this point. We'll just move on to the awards between the two of us, and we can maybe get an update on the next one, just to see what, because we'll get Sean's overall thoughts as well, no doubt, on the next episode. So first award we've got, Scott, David Crockett Award for the best overall moment. I think I know what you're going to pick, but what have you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the Pez and Valiant promos. I love that. That was amazing heel turn. So the Pez heel turn and the follow up Valiant promo. Yeah,
I've got that as well. So two for two, and it did sound as if Dr. G would probably on board with that one as well. Dare I ask what your Arn Anderson Award winner is for the best promo?
You know what it's going to be? It's going to be the Pez thing.
I thought you were going to swerve me there for one of the Flair ones.
No, I really want to. Him talking about which Final Four girl he banged and how Miss Indiana was his choice is a close second, but that's just for more entertainment purposes. Because it's just Flair in the 80s. Because he's telling the truth with that. It's not something he's lying about. My favorite is when Flair mentions what hotel he's staying at for the ladies to come find him and ride Space Mountain. It's just, you wonder why he's been divorced like 5 or 6 times. But no, the Arn is the Pez is the same thing. It's like the Pez promo. I just have that as one package. The Pez promo and then the Valiant promo where he's like talking and he's like somber and it's like a different Valiant we've ever seen before.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've got Pez down for this one as well, but it's a good point you make there about the Valiant follow up to that as well, because it's the polar opposite of what we're used to from him. So I was taken aback. I was already blown away by Pez's interview, but then I was completely taken aback by how good I thought the Valiant one was. So we've had some mild wahoo praise from me on this one, excuse me, and we've also had some Valiant praise from everybody on this one. So strange episode of Crock and Roll, this one. The Dusty Rhodes Broken Leg Award for the best angle, either starting this month or continuing this month. Again, I think I know what you might say. It'll probably be Nighthawk and Jim Cornette, I take it.
Oh, 100%. That's what I can't wait to see. I want to see Nighthawk in his 6 other matches that he has. Actually, I did see that he has a match where it's him and the Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express and Cornette. So I'm kind of interested in see what happens with that. If we actually do get to see that by chance. Yeah, or maybe it's just like a one and done type thing.
God, it doesn't really say much for his wrestling ability, because when Cornette's normally in a match, he's up against like Baby Doll or Paul E. If his ability is on a par with Jim Cornette as old Nighthawk, then I'm thinking Tony Schiavone's a liar when he says he's one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Tony would never lie.
No, never. So next one is the Magnum TA award for the best match over the two episodes.
Where are you going with on this?
I have got honourable mention to Arn and Jackson, and actually the Sam Houston and Black Bart match, but I've gone Garvin Flair.
Yeah, I almost did the Arn match, but Garvin and Flair, even though I complained about it some, I still gave it 3 3/4 just because it was great. So I'm going with that. But I really did enjoy that, and I enjoyed the DiBiase Williams Sheepherders match. We had some good matches. The only one that sort of was a dud was this last one, to be completely honest.
Yeah, we were really lucky. Really lucky on all the domestic based matches. I'll put it as. So is that a little insight on your Jimmy Valiant Award winner for the worst match of the 2 episodes?
I'm gonna go with this last match, Abdullah and Scotland versus Tiger Mask and Giant Baba.
Yeah, I've got that as well. I mean, I don't think it wasn't offensively bad. I mean, we have seen some matches that are really, really bad. It was just, given everything else that we watched, it wasn't anywhere close to anything else. It was the only match I had under 2, and it wasn't that far off a 2, but yeah, it just happened. And obviously, I didn't ask for ratings for the Rock and Roll squash match. I don't think anyone would have given ratings for that. I don't think we can really do that one.
That was more of an angle with just Flair. Like, I wasn't even really, I was watching, but I was like more paying attention to Flair shit talking and talking about all the girls he had been with than the actual match, which was a basic squash. So yeah,
it just seemed it was complete background noise to what Flair was doing at that point. Second to last one, the Wahoo McDaniel Award for the LVP of the 2 episodes. Now, I have gone for Nighthawk on this one.
Yeah, Nighthawk, you're going to win something, but it's not an award you want to win. So that's mine as well. With honorable mention, going to Precious.
Oh yes, that's a good shout actually. That's one to keep an eye on. I think there could be a couple of them coming her way at some point. If she keeps up this sort of performance anyway. And the last one, the Ric Flair Award for MVP of the 2 episodes.
MVP, I'm going with Pez.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this one as well. I said in our group chat that I could be convinced that Pez could get it. Do you know what? I'll give it to Pez as my honourable mention, but I'll give it to Pez Watley as well, because it just came out of nowhere. I'll flip round. My honourable mention is now Ric Flair for managing to keep 3 feuds boiling at the same time, and all top level feuds boiling at the same time. Yeah,
I agree, but like we're accustomed to Flair just coming in, hitting a grand slam every time he's up to bat in this, but Pez just knocked it out of the park. Yeah. And we're used to him like striking out. Like, I know I'm heavy on the baseball analogy here, but he was amazing in that. And I would give honorable mention to Valiant. So Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
how I'm in love with this angle. Watch it blow up in my face, and this is
Well, yeah, the award's named after Ric Flair for a reason, because he is, as you say, always hits it out of the park every time he comes up. The but Pez Whatley has gone from like jobber to jobber to the stars. I don't know if he's as Dr. G was saying, he's one of the guys that will beat the really low card guys, but he's big enough name that when the big guys beat him, it means something. So he's gone from that sort of level to being in an angle that we've all gushed over for most of the episodes. So yeah, Pistol Pez Whatley getting an MVP award. Wouldn't have predicted that one when we started this, but here we are. Yeah, so that's us finally after 4 episodes, Scott. We've managed to round up March 1986. Do you have any what your overall thoughts about this last month that we've taken 2 months to discuss?
it. Just a hell of a month. All signs are pointing to the Crockett Cup, which is coming up shortly. I'm looking forward to seeing Dusty and Flair appear to be one final time. We'll see if Flair can eke out a win. Crockett still owes Flair $100K because it looks like Flair is going to make it to New Orleans as the champ. So hopefully Flair does that because I'm sure he won't pay taxes on it. But really looking forward. Like Crockett's just heating up. Like we have the Rock and Roll Express. I want to see Magnum TA and Nikita. We got to make sure the Kremlin approves of this contract so we can see it on TV and we don't have these clipped cameras. But no, it's just amazing. Well, thank you, Tell 'em Hawk, as the YouTube channel for the cameras for those Greensboro matches that we spoke about. If you want to search them out on YouTube, just some great stuff, some really great stuff.
No, couldn't have said it better myself. I think we're firing all cylinders towards the Crockett Cup, and then sort of it's everything is they're hitting on everything just now. It's difficult to see everything. I say everything. Most of the stuff that the Nighthawk debacle aside, everything they've done this month has been a hit. So long may that continue, because if it does, we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun watching all this in the next weeks and months. So it's been really it's been so much fun just going back and watching it as it's meant to be watched, sort of episodic and not picking bits here and there. So I hope everyone listening is taking as much enjoyment from listening to us rave about it as we are watching and talking about it every couple of weeks. It's just excellent. So that's us, March 1986 in the books. So Scott, what have you got coming up on the horizon for the good folks at home?
Yeah, just check out all the pods on the quadrupods here. The pop feed, the wrestling feed, just Jenny Position and the No-So. Everyone's just doing great work. I can be found on Twitter at Scott_Shiflett.
Good stuff. Well, Dr. G, if he was here, would tell you that every Saturday morning, he and the podfather, Scott Crisco, will talk about modern day NWA on the NWA Saturday Special, dropping, every Saturday morning with your coffee on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed. For myself, excuse me, you can catch me on PTN's Pedestal with Scott and a host of others, where we talk about perceived matches that would be that people put on a pedestal, and we decide, and using Shawnonomics, I believe is the term, we analyse whether or not they deserve to be on the pedestal, on that pedestal that people put them on. You can hear me on the Special Relations every month with my good colleagues on this side of the pond, Ben and Rory, and you can hear me on the various streaming platforms that we're on: twitch.tv/PlaceToBeNation, PlaceToBeNation all one word on YouTube, PTBN Live on Facebook, and at PTBN YouTube on Twitter, where you can leave feedback and suggestions on there as well. But all that has to be said is thank you, Scott, for coming along for the ride again, and what a ride for March 1986 has been. Thank you to Dr. G as well, even though he's not he's had to drop off. Thank you, Sean. You have been missed for these last 2 episodes. Sean will be back next time round. We'll be dive into April of 1986, and we are full steam ahead to New Orleans and the Crockett Cup. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.